My Hero Academia Chapter 401 is finally out, and with it comes the thrilling finale of the All Might vs All showdown. And let's just say, not everyone makes it out alive. Wow, it's a sad day for shonen characters, huh? But before we begin, don't forget to Detroit smash that subscribe button to keep up to date with all the LunchTime crew / My Hero content. And so, without further ado, let's jump right into My Hero Academia Chapter 401, titled The Lunatic. This chapter opens up right back where the last chapter left off, with Stain and All Might both rushing in to finish off the now completely immobilized All For One. As this is happening, it's explained that after eavesdropping on Ida and Chodo's conversation with All Might, who he funnily enough refers to as Ingenium and the Scar Kid, Stain deduced that All Might had planned to fight All For One himself. So he immediately made his way over to the duo in the hopes of helping the #1 hero. It's also interesting and kind of creepy to note that to make sure the blood he drank off the debris wasn't accidentally All Might's, now that would have been a twist, Stain smelled it and confirmed that it didn't smell like All Might at Camino. So like, is that a part of his quirk, or is he truly psycho? But anyways, the story then cuts back to the fight where Stain, still homing in on All For One, wonders if All Might understood what he meant during their conversation at Camino. If he understood that he was trying to get him to value his own life and to continue to fight debt, so that he may remain the symbol the people need. And strangely enough, as if All Might could read his mind, he calls out to Stain, "I understand." And together, both Stain and All Might prepare to unleash their final attacks on All For One, as both of them shout out together, "I am here." Although, interestingly, in the Japanese text, both characters say the phrase differently, with All Might saying it his usual formal way, "Watashi ga kita," and Stain saying it informally, "Ore ga kita." Just a fun note on the characters. However, as epic as this moment is, it's still somehow not enough to stop the Demon King, as before the two can land their attacks, All For One uses his quirks, forced activation, and phlebotomy, causing All For One to explode into a wave of blood as all of his blood leaves his body. Note, the name phlebotomy comes from the procedure of someone using a needle to take blood from their veins. All For One then goes on to say he knew Stain would try to do something against him, as he was the only inmate to leave Tartarus and not join All For One's side. So he came up with a plan to take on his quirk. All For One then activates his antigen modification quirk, entirely changing his blood's composition, removing the effect of Stain's quirk, while also preventing him from using any of the other blood on the battlefield to freeze him again. All For One also states that the reason he has these quirks is because fleeing without leaving evidence was the key to staying hidden all these years. And as all the blood resurges back into his body, a giant mouth shoots out from his back and chomps right into Stain's body, ripping and tearing the hero. Wait, no. Vigilante. As Stain bleeds profusely from this attack, All For One starts to mock him, thanking him for making him change his blood as it has cleared his head and cooled him down. All Might, in seeing Stain get crushed like this, calls out to the hero killer, but before he can reach the two, All For One throws Stain across the city through several buildings. All For One then leaves All Might and follows Stain, finding the bloodied and broken man, remember he had no support items or quirks to ease the impact, lying near death on the edge of a building. Finding him here, All For One goes on to admit to Stain that he was important to Tomura and the League's growth. But in truth, after that, his role in the story ended. Kind of meta. However, Stain refutes this, claiming that they are all a part of a much bigger story than All For One knows. He then goes on to say that even though he didn't finish high school, in watching All Might, he learned the true meaning of being a hero, raising his hands into the air, uttering the words, "Win this and keep living." It is in this moment that All For One raises his arm, and All Might, flying onto the scene, screams out his name as All For One unleashes a devastating punch on Stain, causing a wave of blood to shoot out from the spot the hero killer once laid. It looks like it's the end of Stain. And immediately after this attack, All For One quickly turns to the approaching All Might and blasts him with a hyper-concentrated beam of energy. A blast blast that should have unalived the hero. But in a miraculous moment, the little remaining parts of Hercules intercepted the blast, taking on some of the damage for him while calling out to All Might to keep on living. And following this, the chapter takes a turn, as the next thing we see is a bloodied present-day All Might lying on the ground as Nana Shimura kneels over him and tells him to get up. All Might is understandably completely baffled about how his master is here. That is until he sees the image of Sir Night Eye, and it's here where he realizes that the people he is seeing are just hallucinations created by his body in an attempt to encourage him to keep fighting. Suddenly, the story cuts back to reality, where we see All Might lying broken and bloody on the ground. All of his support items are now gone, and tragically, he has lost the use of his legs. Yet, despite all of this, to honor those that came before him, he somehow manages to build up enough strength to start crawling. And as he does so, with a terrifying smile on his face, he shouts out to All for One, "I'm not dead yet. Come over here." However, All for One's attention has, for the first time in this fight, completely gone off All Might, as we see him looking off in the not too far distance at a crashing UA and two silhouettes fighting underground. As Tsukauchi warns everyone, All for One has finally gotten close enough, he can now use his goo teleportation quirk to get to Shigaraki. And that's it for chapter 401. If you like this video, don't forget to leave a like. For more content like this, subscribe to the Lunchtime crew. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. It's lunchtime.